afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Norm's Friends. I'm David B., the readings guy. Lo and behold, as luck would have it, you get me and only me for the whole hour. Of course, we have our trusty inspirational quote. We have our interesting fun facts today. Supposedly, they tell me the phone is working today. It's going to be at the bottom of your screen, the correct number. We'll see what happens. Hopefully it will work today. Otherwise, it's just going to be me going on about, well, just in case I have, and I checked it before I brought it, so it's printed out good. Voter fraud. And no, I'm not a, what do you call it, you know what I mean, a conspiracy theorist or whatever it is. It's true. Anyway, and if we still need to refresh ourselves, we can always go over a constitution so everybody knows their rights. And when they're getting bulldozed over, which happens a lot today. Again, I'm David B., the readings guy, 603-404-9338. biffid@yahoo.com. That's BIFFID@yahoo.com. So you can text, you can call, you can email. If you want a reading, if you have any questions you want to know about mediumship, reading tarot cards, what certain cards mean, psychic intuitiveness, how that sort of all bombards you from your energy field or from wherever it comes from, and sort of gets absorbed all over and spews out right there. I have my trusty Rider-Waite tarot deck with me, and my crystal ball, which was sitting in the car all day, so it's still cold. So we'll see if it wants to get busy or not. It's so-so right now, so there you have it. It might be a little upset with me for being in the car and getting chilly, but, you know, what can I tell you? So with that, let me get a sip of water, and let's get to it. Excuse me 1 minute. All right, so by the way, thought I would get, just so you know, I thought I would get some guests from the New Hampshire Metaphysical, which used to be in Londonderry, which is where I would go. I went there for several years until COVID, and they used to have a big practitioner directory, a lot of people on it, a couple of dozen, maybe even more. And I knew quite a few of them from, you know, going to the circles, they call them mediumship circles that they have, where you practice mediumship and psychic intuitiveness, you know, tarot cards, whatever, all that type of stuff. Well, lo and behold, I check out their new website, and there's maybe no more than a half dozen practitioners, which I don't have a clue who they are, so there you have it. But I'm still on the hunt. Naturally, people I know want to come on, so we'll get them on. I know one guy was just telling me today, could he come on and talk sports, football? I said, sure, but I mean, let's face it, you hear a lot of times, oh, I want to come on, until it's time to actually come on. But these guys seem to be all right, so we'll see what happens. They're a nice bunch of guys who are a lot of fun, lighthearted, you know, easygoing. So I'll try and get them on here soon. Change the pace, change it up. There you go. So what do you say? Let's get going. I'm going to read the inspirational quote today. I like it. I did all this morning. So there you go. Here it is. A wise man will make more opportunities than he finds. Right? Francis Bacon, the essays. I don't have a clue who Francis Bacon is, but he did a nice quote here. A wise man will make more opportunities than he finds. So, and just a little bit of switch with the interesting fun facts. Well, the fun facts are about, because I'm always fascinated, my cat always goes in his, it's in front of the window. Cat perches, I always say he's in his perch, right? So, today the interesting fun facts are about cat perches, but before I get, there's only 5 of them, so I figure we'll be through those in no time, right? So, before I get into them, let's just give you a little summary about, cat perches. All right, not purchases, cat perches. Those trees you buy them, whatever you want to call them. Fred's is about maybe this high, 4 feet or so, maybe a little higher, and he loves it. All right, cat perches is providing places to cat perches. Bloop, that's a period, all right? Providing places to perch is one of the most essential parts of building a happy and stimulating environment for your cat. We all want our cats to be happy, right? Perching is so important, in fact, that if you don't provide one, your cat will often create one on top of your dresser or on a shelf, and may, right? And may even resort to pushing stuff out of the way. So, right, the cats jump on the table or on the shelf and they throw the stuff over, right, with everybody, with that fresh little you-know-what, right? But it's not that. They want to perch and they want to check out everything. All right, so here's a few reasons on what drives your cat to perch. All right? Interesting fun fact number 1. Out of reach from, open paren, close paren, out of reach from imaginary predators. You know your home is safe, and deep down, your cat knows it's safe as well. But still, cats are always on the lookout for potential danger of a lurking predator. From a perch, your cat gets a great view of its environment and keeps it out of reach from predators while it takes its midday snooze. There you go. I always thought they were comfortable because they know they're on the other side of the glass and nobody can get them. All right, interesting fun fact number 2. This is true for sure. They watch for prey. We try to keep our homes free from prey, mice, insects, etc., as much as we do predators. But they do sneak in every now and then, and perching gives your cat the best seat in the house for spotting them, right? All the time. And even, believe it or not, practically every single morning, even this morning, it was 17 degrees out. Fred is out on the balcony. You know why? Because the birds fly around, and sometimes, they land on the railing that's on the balcony, and here he is just sitting there, and you can see him flying by very close, but not close enough for him to swat him. But he sits there, well, like this morning, not long, 10 minutes maybe at the most, and he got chilly, but they do it. All right, interesting fun fact number 3. Climbing is good exercise. Just like you or us, cats need to stretch and move their bodies in order to stay healthy and strong. Having access to perches gives your cat plenty of opportunities to stretch and move their body with climbing, clawing, and jumping. There you go. Well, he does, he sort of jumps. He jumps up halfway. There's a little thing there, and he jumps, boom, boom, and then he jumps down in one leap. All right, interesting fun fact number 4. get away from nuisances. Even when our homes are safe, they can sometimes feel overwhelming for cats. This can especially be the case if your cat cohabitates with other cats, Fred Solo, dogs, or children. It's just me and Fred. Perching offers your cat a valuable and untouchable respite from being touched, bullied, or played with. Now, wonder why? Because he's on his perch. I go to pet him on the head. He goes, I always tell him he's always trying to assault me. No matter how fun our homes and lives are, we all need truly restful sleep every now and then. And finally, interesting fun fact number 5. It's instinctual. At the end of the day, the reason your cat perches is because it's instinctual. Their wildcat ancestors perched as an essential way of staying safe in the outdoor world. Even though our cats live in a completely different environment than their wildcat ancestors, those instincts remain strong and very much alive. So there you have it. There's those for today. Hope you enjoyed them. So now you can relax. Get ready. Now is a good time because I'm changing gears here. So get your cocktail real quick, cup of tea, whatever it is, relax. All right. Yeah. Hopefully you're going to do it within earshot. All right. So until we get a phone call, it's me rambling on. Let me get another sip of water, please. All right, now, okay, so let's discuss, see it, if you can see it, yeah. Let's talk about voter fraud. I'm tired of these people that saying it's a crock. No, it isn't. You know, and I love it. It's, you have to get involved. I keep saying, I can't stress it enough. You have to get involved. You know, it's democracy. We live in a republic. If you don't get involved, that's why everything gets shredded. They think they can take your rights away, like the Second Amendment, right? Your right to bear arms. God forbid if they take that away. Bye-bye America. Bye-bye freedom of speech. Bye-bye freedom of religion, because they'll want you to convert to Islam. Bye-bye your right to vote. Bye-bye every other right. If they take away your Second Amendment right, doomed. So don't be dumb. All right? Even you hear all this stuff about the ACLU, which is the ACLU, Against Christians Like You. Right? They go on about to say, without any proof, you know, voter ID is racist. How is it racist? How does it, this is what gets me. You know, they say it discourages blacks, especially. They always come out with that race. It's never Asian or Latino, Hispanic. It's always black, right? It's always black Americans are going to be the most affected by it. But yeah, which I don't understand is, you know, they have no problem showing an ID when they go into the liquor store, right? They have no problem showing an ID when they want to take out a library book. So I don't get it. They have no problem showing an ID when they, you know, for an EBT card. They have no problem showing an ID to renew their driver's license. So why is it a problem to show an ID to actually exercise one of your most important rights? I don't get it. And again, Americans couldn't care less. They're lazy. They think it doesn't affect them directly. How wrong you are. Open your eyes, get your head out of the sand, or get your head out of your you-know-what, where the sun doesn't shine. Because that's why, you know, we're in the predicament we're in now. You know, you have to be woke. So in other words, you know, if you're evil and you're nasty and you're anti-American and you're anti-white and you're anti-Christian, all's well and fine. But if you're pro-American, forget it. If you're pro-American, of course, look at me, right? If you're pro-American and you're a white guy, so you're a white supremacist, this couldn't be further from the truth. Again, don't be so dumb and don't be so gullible and believe every single thing that you hear just because they've taken away your God-given right of free will. You know, they want you to believe if it doesn't come from the woke lefties, commies, everything else is they're after you. You know, they keep victimizing everyone and people keep believing it. Oh, poor me, poor me. Anyway, so much for that. So shall we, let's just see what it says. I haven't read it. You know, I haven't read it. I perused a couple of things, just a couple of pages, make sure it flowed, and that's it. All right, so this says Heritage Explains, all right? Voter fraud. All right, key takeaways. 1, the right to vote in a free and fair election is the most basic civil right. It's a right. It's not a privilege. It's a right. One on which many other rights of the American people depend. All right? Key takeaway number 2. Congress and the states should guarantee that every eligible individual is able to vote and that no one's vote is stolen or diluted. And that also, we can expand on that a little bit about no one's vote is stolen or diluted. We'll say down in Mass, let's face it, with all these illegals that are living there now, I'll put money on it. I'll put money on it. They'll be voting in the next presidential election. Not all of them, some of them. I'll put money on it. Anybody want to bet? The phone number's on the screen. Give us a call. We can make a wager. I'll put money on it. Anyway, key takeaway number 3. Voter fraud is real, and hundreds of convictions have been made and documented. So all these people that say it's a crock, no, it isn't. And it's just like, you know, well, I know one of them is in here, so I'll comment as we go along. All right, so that's that. All right. Preserving the great experiment that is the American Republic is dependent upon free and fair elections. When selecting a city councilor or the President of the United States, every American must be able to trust the process and the result, or the democratic system itself breaks down, which it already is. I don't know about you. I did not trust the last election, and I'll tell you why. It was late at night, and I remember Trump was up in Pennsylvania by how much? It was either over 600,000 votes or over 800,000 votes. The next thing you know, what do they say? Oh, we're stopping counting for the evening. I've never heard of anywhere stop counting votes. Well, lo and behold, what happened? They stopped counting votes, and then when they start in the morning, whatever time it was, 6 or 6:30, all of a sudden, this joker that's in the White House now, not only has he made up the difference, but he's also gone ahead. So during those 8 hours, 1 million votes came in just for this joker. None for Trump, all for Biden. If you don't think anything's fishy with that, I got news for you. I got a bridge I want to sell you right down the street, all right? Election integrity is essential, and the security of the ballot box cannot be left to a simple honor system, which, and we'll keep using Pennsylvania as an example. That wasn't an honor system, that was a dishonor system. When they came up with all those, found over 800,000 votes just for Biden. Imagine that. Is that unbelievable? Yes. All right. Okay, next. Oh, wait a minute. It is incumbent upon state governments to safeguard the electoral process and ensure that every voter's right to cast a ballot is protected. They're not in Arizona. That governor out there, another one that she did not win the vote. She might have won the vote, but it wasn't, that was ripped off too. Carrie Lake got ripped off, or whatever it is, from governor or whoever it was. Katie Hobbs did not, that many people did not vote for her. Did she get that many votes? Yeah, but how many votes did they steal? How many mail-in ballots did they count where the mail-in ballots really never got sent in, but they counted them anyway? I can go on and on. Everybody, you need proof. The polls will say close at 8. Why does it take them for 3 days to count the votes, especially if it's all done by computer? Come on. You should have instant results. I don't care what you say. Why does it take all that time? Because they have to, it's instant results. So then what they do is they go down the list and they see who didn't vote, regardless of what party. You know, it doesn't matter, especially in a general election. So what do? They go down the voter list. This one didn't vote, this one didn't vote, this one didn't vote. And all of a sudden they have these mail-in ballots arrive mysteriously, all for the candidate they want, and still nobody screams, nobody demands anything. Oh well. You can't be dumb if you want to be free. All right. The history of voting in the United States. Contrary to the claims of many liberals, that's right, liberals, woke, commies, the sewer in D.C., the problem of voter fraud is as old as the country itself. As the U.S. Supreme Court noted when it upheld Indiana's voter identification law, which every state should have voter identification. But then again, all these woke, crooked politicians wouldn't be in office, would they? All right. As the U.S. Supreme Court noted when it held up Indiana's voter identification law, flagrant examples of voter fraud have been documented throughout this nation's history by respected historians and journalists. Attempts to commandeer election results have been documented dating back to the 19th century, for those of you who don't know, the 1800s, when New York City's infamous Tammany Hall was synonymous with political corruption and election fraud. In one New York, tongue-tied, trick phrase. In one New York election in 1844, 55,000 votes were recorded, even though there were only 41,000 eligible voters. Voter fraud doesn't exist, though, and that's what the left will tell you. And there's a bunch of idiots out there that believe them. There's proof right there. Decades later, these efforts have continued, and determined fraudsters have become only more creative in their efforts to fix the outcome of elections. They did last presidential election in Pennsylvania. They stopped counting, but, you know, what really happened was they stopped counting so they could get fraudulent ballot deliveries. All right, and they wouldn't, and by the way, they even had a truck driver who said he'd sign an affidavit attesting to the fact that he drove to what he said the polling place and everything. He drove him from out of state, from New York or wherever it was in New Jersey, drove him to Pennsylvania, and he even said where he dropped him off. Would they investigate it? No, they're saying that, you know, it's a conspiracy theory. No, it's fact. All right, different types of election fraud. Let's see. There are many ways for criminals to steal votes and change the outcome of an election. These include impersonation fraud at the polls, voting in the name of other legitimate voters and voters who have died. By the way, I just read this last week in Michigan. Voters who have died, there's still 25,000 dead people on the voter rolls, and which they even proved, I don't know how many of them voted in the last election. So there you go, all right? Who have died, moved away, or lost their right to vote because they are felons but remain registered. Ha. False registrations. Voting under fraudulent voter registrations that either use a phony name and a real or fake address, or claim residence in a particular jurisdiction where the registered voter does not actually live and is not entitled to vote. And I'll bet you that happens up here in the good old state of New Hampshire, because why? And I still think it's a joke. Same-day registration. Even the last election, when was it? January, the primary? Why is it like 95% of the same-day registration voters, they're all from Mass? Why is that? Not from, you know, North Dakota, other parts of the country, from Mass. All right. Duplicate voting. Registering in multiple locations and voting in the same election in more than one jurisdiction or state. It sounds like what I just said. They vote en masse, then they all of a sudden they move up here and, you know, they register to vote here. All on the same day. All right. Fraudulent use of absentee ballots. Oops, you mean they do that? They just, by the way, in case if anybody reads these things, of course I know all the lefties out there, the woke people, the young people that don't know how to use their God-given right of free will. This just happened when Nevada had their primary. I guess you can check afterwards and go on the Secretary of State's website out there or whatever and check your voter, whatever your voter status. And there's how many people out there checked. They did not, a bunch of people that didn't even vote, and or people that did not use a mail-in ballot voted by mail-in ballot. So there you go, fraudulent use of absentee ballots. So, and there's proof right there, but will they do anything about it? No. They would if the tables would turn and all this fraud was happening to advantageous for conservatives. You bet your bottom dollar they'd be all over every single one of these accusations like that. Requesting absentee ballots and voting without the knowledge of the actual voter, or obtaining the absentee ballot from a voter and either filling it in directly or forging the voter's signature or illegally telling the voter who to vote for. There was also another thing, didn't they, in Pennsylvania last time? What was it, Colorado and Arizona, all these places had absentee ballots. Signatures didn't match. There were no signatures on them. They were undated. No voter fraud, though. And you keep telling yourself that, dummy. All right. Buying votes. Paying voters to cast either an in-person or absentee ballot for a particular candidate. Just last election, when was it, November? Or whenever it was, not too long ago, several months ago, buying votes, paying voters. They got the guy that was running for mayor of Springfield, Massachusetts. They have him on video paying homeless people to go in and vote for him. And they even have these homeless people and the down and outers attesting to, signing affidavits. This guy's paying them to vote for him. What does the government do? Does it investigate it? No, 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 no. Why? Oops, maybe couldn't be because the guy's a Democrat. Oops. Excuse me. All right. Illegal assistance at the polls. Forcing or intimidating voters, particularly the elderly, disabled, illiterate, and those for whom English is a second language, to vote for particular candidates while supposedly providing them with assistance. I heard that when I was a kid. Growing up in Medford, I remember the elderly complaining about, these people offered them assistance, and then not only that, it wasn't assistance, they would go in the booth with them and vote for them. All right, here we go. And there's a lot of this. Ineligible voting, illegal registration and voting by individuals who are not U.S. citizens, are convicted felons, or are otherwise not eligible to vote. Let's go back to who are not U.S. citizens. Again, in Philadelphia, the last election, they even admitted to it, that they have had people who aren't citizens voting. And is that investigated? Nope. Does anybody make a peep about it? Nope. And that, you're going to wake up when it's too late. All right, so you can relate every single one of these to Pennsylvania. Altering the vote count, changing the actual vote count, either in a precinct or at the central location where votes are counted. And that's why, again, they're not called ballot counting machines. They're called voting machines, right? Voting machines, because they actually vote. All right. Ballot petition fraud. Forging the signatures of registered voters on the ballot petitions that must be filed with election officials in some states for a candidate or issue to be listed on the official ballot. Didn't they just catch, I forget where, and he's not on the ballot, Dean Phillips, the Democrat running against Biden for signatures that I guess made up or forged or whatever. But see, always, why was he investigated? I know he's a Democrat. Why? Because he's going against this joker down there who's really not the president. If you think this guy, he might be the president, but if you think this guy's running the show, I got news for you. And that's another one, if anybody wants to make a wager, but the show is being run from the other idiot, white hater, Christian hater, American hater down the vineyard. You know who I'm talking about. All right. Let's see. Altering the vote. Okay. Ballot petition fraud. Okay. forging the signatures of registered voters on the ballot petitions that must be filed with election officials in some states for a candidate or issued to be listed on the official ballot. We just said that. All right. Can illegal votes actually affect election outcomes? Well, when there's millions of them, especially in one state, we'll say like Pennsylvania, duh. You know, anyone with a brain cell that still uses their brain cell knows it. All right, liberal groups, oops, I said the word again. Liberal groups often claim that known instances of voter fraud are inconsequential when compared to the total number of ballots cast in American elections. Before I read any further on that, we'll just say Judicial Watch. If any of you are familiar with it, Google it, go online. It might not come up on Google because it's a conservative group that they sue different counties and cities and states about voter fraud. I think it was in the past couple of years, I think it was they sued North Carolina. They took 2 million voters off the voter registration that were either, you know, had moved, were deceased, you know, stuff like that. Just in LA County, I think it was over 1 million voters off the voter list that had moved away, were deceased, or whatever. They got New York City, just New York City, to take, I don't know, a couple of 100,000 or 200,000 people off the voter list. I think it was in maybe 5, 6, or 7 years. New York City had only taken less than 10 people off the voter list. So come on, let's knock it off. However, as the National Commission on Federal Election Reform has stated, the problem is not the magnitude of voter fraud. In close or disputed elections, and there are many, a small amount of fraud can make the margin of difference. The U.S. Supreme Court has concurred with this assessment. Hold on, wait a minute. Noting that known instances of fraud demonstrate that not only is the risk of voter fraud real, but that it could affect the outcome of a close election. Another conspiracy theory, according to the left. All right, indeed, recent elections bear this out. Pay close attention, as Judge Judy would say, listening is everyone. In 2015, a city council election in the New Jersey town of Perth Amboy was decided by a mere 10 votes. A judge overturned the election and ordered a new one after it was revealed that at least 13 illegal absentee ballots had been cast. And I bet you they figured because who won by 10 votes? The conservative candidate? Oops. All right. The 2003 mayoral primary in East Chicago, Indiana, was overturned by the state Supreme Court after evidence of widespread fraud was revealed. The new election resulted in a different winner. Numerous convictions for election fraud resulted from this election and are documented in the Heritage Foundation voter fraud database. And didn't they just a couple of months ago also down in Connecticut, the same thing, voter fraud, the judge ordered a new election. All right. Each state is generally responsible for the administration of its own electoral systems, electoral systems, including elections for federal office. State governments must take this responsibility seriously. some more so than others. Some take it so seriously, they make sure their candidate wins. And adopt policies sufficient to secure their elections against fraud, or to secure their elections with fraud, including efforts by non-citizens to vote. Again, I bet you, check this presidential election. Let's check the voter registrations down in Mass, and we'll see how many illegals voted, because Mass gives licenses to illegal residents now. And what else does Mass do? Automatically, if you have a driver's license, you're registered to vote. No fraud, though. Okay, by including efforts by non-citizens to vote and by citizens registered in multiple states. All right, the Heritage Foundation, must be misinformation because it sounds like a conservative group to me. The Heritage Foundation has outlined several policies states should adopt, including requiring government-issued identification and proof of citizenship to vote. I don't know why you have to fly, you have to show what now? You can't show a license anymore, and that's just in the country. You have to show what? A passport, so they know you're a resident of, or what is it? You have to have that gold star in your license, which means you prove that, you know, you are who you say you are, you're a resident. There you have it. Should adopt, including requiring government-issued identification and proof of citizenship to vote. Why not? And that's why they keep fighting for none of this stuff. Because, and if you don't think they're cheating, it's got nothing to do with if you're a lefty or a wokey or a conservative. Cheating is cheating is cheating is cheating. States should enter into interstate voter registration cross-check programs to identify voters registered in multiple states. They should verify the accuracy of their voter registrations by comparing voter rolls with jury forms, DMV files. Well, it doesn't matter because, like I said in Mass, DMV files, if you've ever got a DMV file, you're a registered voter. And other government records to other government records to identify non-citizens so that they can be removed from voter rolls. Everybody out there, you should call all your elected officials and scream that enough is enough with the BS. Let's, get back to brass tacks here. The federal government should cooperate with state efforts to clean up their registrations and make Department of Homeland Security and other databases available to state officials for this purpose. This federal government, under this joke administration, does the opposite. They sue states so they can continue to cheat. It's just like, for the open border. Texas puts up barriers to protect itself. And another shows you how dumb Americans are. This joker gets up there, his teleprompter tells him to tell everyone out there that he can't control the open border, yet he brings the state of Texas to court to take the barriers down. They put up razor wire. That's the next thing. They took him to court to take the razor wire down, and thank God that governor down there has the moxie and the backbone to stand up and say, no, we're not taking it down, we're protecting ourselves. Good for him. All right. Let's get back to voter fraud. In recent years, some proactive secretaries of state across the country have taken the lead in securing American elections. Kansas's interstate voter registration cross-check program has identified hundreds of thousands of potential duplicate registrations in the 30 states participating in the initiative, as well as evidence of double voting. No voter fraud, though. That's what, Nancy Pelosi wants to tell you. No voter fraud. Proof, it's right here. in black and white. Go check it out for yourself. Don't believe me. Do some research before you start calling me this or that. At the same time, more states have passed voter ID laws to detect and deter fraud, and good for them. See, what does it do? Voter ID laws detect and deter fraud. So why were these, the DC swamp? That's why they're against voter ID, because it protects, it detects and deters fraud. In other words, they can't cheat. All right. There are now 34 states that have laws requiring voters to show some form of identification at the polls, although not all require photo identification or proof of citizenship, like Massachusetts. A small number of states have extended that ID requirement to absentee ballots, a requirement that all states should implement. Of course they should. All right, examples of election fraud cases across the country. Well, let me see if I hope I grabbed them all. I didn't, but that's all right. There are examples of election fraud cases across the country. Heritage's voter fraud database contains a sampling of voter fraud cases from across the country, all of which have resulted in either a criminal conviction or an overturned election. But the lefties will tell you and the commies will tell you no voter fraud here. The Heritage database is not representative of the full scope of the problem. Unfortunately, too often, voter fraud goes undetected, and when it is discovered, overburdened prosecutors seldom prioritize these cases. Imagine. Anyway, I only have, let me see, wait a minute. I only have, all right, 3, and I'm just noticing the last one is cut off, but that's all right. So, voter fraud examples. 1982, an estimated 100,000 fraudulent ballots were cast in a 1982 Chicago election. After a Justice Department investigation, 63 individuals were convicted of voter fraud, including vote buying, impersonation fraud, fictitious voter registrations, phony absentee ballots, and voting by non-citizens. I bet you if they investigated the last presidential election, they'd have found this, all widespread vote buying, impersonation fraud, fictitious voter registrations, especially phony absentee ballots, and voting by non-citizens. Prevalent. All right, 1994. After an extensive investigation of absentee ballot fraud in a 1994 Greene County, Alabama election, 9 defendants pleaded guilty to voter fraud, and 2 others were found guilty by a jury. The defendants included Greene County commissioners, officials, and employees, a racing commissioner, a member of the Board of Education, a Utah City councilman, and other community leaders. Among other things, the conspirators used an assembly line to mass produce forged absentee ballots meant to swing elections in favor of preferred candidates. That's 1994. It happened in 2020. Anybody like to wager? Prove me wrong. All right, and here's the last one. It's not all printed out, but let's just see how far we go on this, all right? I see it's cut off. Alan Twig Simmons, an operative, this is in 2003, an operative for the East Chicago, Indiana mayor's campaign, persuaded voters to let him fill out their absentee ballots in exchange for jobs. He pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 3 years of probation and 100 hours of community service. Well, there you have it, everyone. That's our lesson for today. So when they tell you, these lefties tell you, no voter fraud, we know what we can tell them. It's a big crock of you-know-what, big BS. You know, Lou Reed, right? Everybody knows who Lou Reed is. Anyway, my age, everybody knows who Lou Reed is. But anyway, you know, he did have, you know, one of his quotes was, you know, not only does everyone need a BS detector, you have to know how to use it. Plain and simple, and sadly, some people can't be bothered with it because, God forbid, it's effort on their part. So let's see. Let's pull a card and see. We'll pull a card. I know it's hard because I can make it say what I want, right? But we could just go by the look of the card. You know, is really, are they going to, you think, secure the voter fraud? You think they're going to clamp down on it? Or you think they're going to continue, and not only let it continue, but it's even going to be more prevalent and even more fraud, higher numbers of illegal votes cast, and that type of thing. Let's see. This is the card I got. Let's see what happens. So, well, here we have it. We have the Queen of Swords. So I'm going to say actually it will be addressed only because people, I think, hopefully, will wake up and, you know, take a stand and say enough is enough is enough is enough. And of course, so, you know, here she is, and this is afterthought. It's really, you know, it's like we'll say with the open border now. You know, it's a big, 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 big issue. It weighs heavy on a lot of Americans. So now all of a sudden, you know, this joke in Washington, he can't blame Republicans. He tried to spin it on Republicans, all right, by saying because they didn't pass the, I love it, they call it what, the American Borders, whatever Act. What it was to keep the border open till eternity. And what did it do? It gave big, big bucks still to Ukraine, big bucks to Israel. I don't know how much to Hamas. How dumb are people? Anyway, and how much for the border? Not a lot for the border. But what it was, and even for the border, was to, we'll say, it wasn't a lot of money, 10 billion at the most. But what was that money? It wasn't to build a wall. It was to house the migrants, the illegals hopping the wall, coming over criminally. So they're letting all these criminals in. You know, if you or I break the law, we have to go to court. We end up paying a fine and or going to jail. These, you know, all these people coming across the southern border criminally, they are here illegally, and I don't care what you say, no one's illegal. No one's illegal, but there sure are a lot of people here illegally that shouldn't be here, right? What do they get? Again, I always laugh. They hop the fence on a Tuesday, they make it to Massachusetts. I don't know what the law is up here really about that, but they make it to Massachusetts, they're getting the highest welfare benefits in the country, or one of the highest. They're getting at least $45,000 in benefits. Wouldn't you take a chance and try to make it up there? I mean, let's face it, I would. Do you know? I mean, I'm still working 2 jobs. Believe me, if I didn't have to work, you think I would? But I'm white, I speak English, and I was born here, so, you know, you're on your own, buddy. So there you have it. So I think some of it's going to be addressed only because I think people are really going to demand it. But you'll see they'll come up with something, you know, other ways and other schemes to, you know, rig the election, get extra votes in there and extra I should say ballots, really, because that's what they are. And I think they should be really harsh. You know, they give them these slap on the wrists like these George Soros people. All these attorney generals, right? Instead of, you know, like that guy, got caught doing all this. What's he got? 3 years probation. What's that? Nothing. But, you know, if you got, we'll say if there was mandatory sentences for, we'll say, you know, voter fraud, you can bet your bottom dollar, you know, we'll say like 15 years. You can bet your bottom dollar there'd be less people doing it. And it's just like to prove a point about how, you know, they go on about voter ID. And, you know, how quick people forget, but if you remember, before the last election, well, thank God for, what's her name? Sinema out of, is she Arizona? Yeah, she's an independent now. And Joe Manchin out of West Virginia, but why would they want to pass a law to make it against the law to prosecute illegals for voting in national elections? Why would they want to pass that law to protect them? See, that's what, you know, no one's above the law except illegals are. You know, they don't want to protect Americans, but God, I'm telling you, you know, illegals tell them to jump. These Democrats that are running the show in Washington are asking them how high. I mean, let's cut it out. Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed your nice lesson today. I know I enjoyed it, but it just goes to show you, you know, you gotta keep your wits about you. It's out there just because, you know, all you people out there who watch CNN, ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, CNBC, you know, especially, what's her name? The real communist, the pit bull there. She's from Northampton. Oh, come on. You know who I mean, do you? What's her name? The real radical one. The pit bull from Northampton. Do you know? Oh, Rachel Maddow. Is that her name? Rachel Maddow. You'll believe this. She's, huh? Northampton, yeah, and she used to go home, believe it or not, every weekend. I don't know if she still does, but anyway, she's another one. You know, people believe, you idiots out there believe everything she says, hook, line, and sinker. She lied to you for, what, 4 years when Trump was president about Russia, the Russia collusion. And he's doing this and he's doing that. It all proved to be false, and it was all perpetrated by none other than the wonderful, who they couldn't get over, lost the election, Hillary. Oh, what am I to do now? But, you know, people like this, they lie to you. So did CBS, NBC, ABC, CNBC, all these news channels. They all lie to you, and you still believe in them. Anyway, thank you all for relaxing. I learned a lot today. I hope you did. I hope some of it sunk in. Again, call all your elected officials. Tell them enough is enough is enough. If enough people call, they'll get the message, just like when the price of gas went up to almost $5. Everybody started calling their elected officials. Boy, that price came down quick. Anyway, so there you have it. Before we leave, we're almost out of time. I'm David B., the Readings Guy, 603-404-9338. Biffid@yahoo.com, BIFFID@yahoo.com. Get in touch for whatever it is you may want. And in the meantime, please, 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 2 things always remember, always. 1, you can't be dumb if you want to be free. And more importantly, you are a winner.